Because of her little escapade with a biker dude, Bella was inspired to go out and pick up some clunkers herself.
I brought you something.
Okay.
It's a little crazy.
Wow. Scrap metal. You shouldn't have.
I saved it from the junkyard.
She took them to Jacob for repair, and this was one of the greatest changes from the book that I can list. One of Meyer's biggest problems is that she doesn't understand pacing at all and just includes every minute detail she can come up with. No matter how irrelevant, she would just go over every single aspect of Bella's life and her every thought. This scene in the book involved Bella coming across a pair of motorcycles on the street, asking the guy throwing them away how much they cost, getting shrugged off because they were free, forcing small talk with the guy, then finally walking away with the motorcycles and delivering them to Jacob for repair. It goes on far longer than it should. Not only is the pace unbearably slow, it's so bad that it completely halts story progression. Detail is important, but it swings both ways. Too much information can be just as damaging as too little. So Jacob agrees to repair Bella's motorcycles, taking one for himself as payment. We even see Bella expressing a little bit of joy, and there's almost a hint of chemistry between these two.
Jake, you're, like, buff. How did that happen? You're like 16. I don't get it.
Age is just a number, baby. What are you, like 40 now?
The book carried this further, with Bella and Jacob teasing each other about age and trading stories to determine who was more mature.
Okay, so where do we stand?
I'm 35. And you might be like 32.
And if we were dealing with real characters, then scenes like these would have been great for development. With that in mind, the next scene gives us a very good example of how badly written Bella is.
That song's good. You don't like it?
I don't really like music anymore, kind of.
Bella doesn't like music. It's not that she doesn't like rock and roll, or classical, or polka, she just doesn't like anything. And that, I think, is pathetic. Music, in a broad sense, is one of those things that stirs emotions and moves people, and has done so for thousands of years. People fall in love with music, get driven to tears because of it, and if you find the right groove, even the most mundane task can be made exciting or fun. Bella's falling out with music stems from a CD she got from Edward, which the movie forgot to include. The association of the two was supposed to be this depressing trigger for Bella, but connecting all of music to Edward makes her look melodramatic. If she doesn't like a particular genre or band because of this, that'd be fine, but not liking any music without some intricate reason is bad writing. So far, the best example I can think of for a character not liking music would be the family in A Quiet Place, and they have a pretty damn good reason for not liking sound. After a montage of Bella and Jacob hanging out, complete with some mild flirting, we see the two of them driving along until they see Sam and his gang cliff diving.
Did you see that?
They're not really fighting, Bella. They're cliff diving. Scary as hell, but a total rush.
Despite not seeing any previous examples of Sam being a dick, and Sam being given almost no screen time before this, Jacob says that he doesn't like Sam or his gang of shirtless men.
They just think they run this place. Ember used to call them hall monitors on steroids.
I would focus on how this violates show don't tell, but I don't think anyone would be surprised by that. So Bella and Jacob have finished repairing their motorcycles and find a stretch of back road to try them out on. Bella goes off all at once, sees Edward a few times, then crashes her bike, only to get up and want to do it again. This woman is so obsessed with her ex that it makes the overly obsessed girlfriend meme look stable.
I want to go again.
Are you trying to get yourself killed?
I want to go again.
No, forget it.
And this is what Bella has been reduced to as a character. She dedicates herself to becoming an adrenaline junkie just so she can hallucinate and see Edward. You know, you could just do drugs. Bella's hallucinations, inane as they are, were changed slightly for the movie. In the book, she only had auditory hallucinations, so she only heard Edward and didn't see him. The movie gives these moments a visual element, making Bella's near-suicidal tendencies a little more understandable. I mean, as understandable as acting on a serious mental disorder can be. So Jacob, being a nice, supportive friend, helps Bella after her fall and finally gives the audience some eye candy. I know what this head wound needs. My sweaty shirt! Bella returns to school to hang out with her old friends, numbers 1 through 4.
So, I mean, Bella's back.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, that's well, welcome.
And right off the bat, without talking to her for months, apparently, or knowing anything about what she's been doing, friend number 3 asks her out. And it's so amazingly awkward that I almost had to see a chiropractor about cringe-induced neck pain.
So listen, now that you're talking and eating again, which gotta get that protein in there. I was just wondering if you wanted to go see a movie with me.
Oh god. It's like watching a Twihard trying to come up with a coherent argument. Friend number 3 suggests that they watch a romantic comedy with a title so bad it makes Nicholas Sparks look clever.
Love spelled backwards is love.
Bella instead suggests an action movie that makes Michael Bay look like a visionary.
How about Face Punch? Have you heard of that?
Twilight, making everything else look better by comparison since 2005. But friend number 3's obvious date request gets mistaken for simply hanging out, and Bella invites everyone else to come along with them. Stupid mortal. Bella's only attracted to monsters, not humans. But only number 3 and Jacob show up, with everyone else either getting sick or not caring enough. Point to the movie though, it was a lot easier explaining why 3 people didn't show up instead of the 7 from the book. When all but 2 of your friends bail on movie night, something's up. And the movie is too intense for number 3, who has to leave quickly.
Okay, I think I'm gonna stop.
This leads to a long, drawn-out scene of Bella and Jacob talking about their relationship. Short version, Jacob tries to take things one step further, and Bella rejects him, while not admitting to herself that she's not mature enough to move past Edward.
What? I can't hold your hand?
No, of course you can. I just think it means something a little different to you. So.
To his credit, Jacob does take it pretty well.
Well, I've got loads of time. I'm not gonna give up.
I don't want you to.
He was much less understanding in the book, pushing for romance and even getting angry when Bella said no. Kinda like he was saying, "How dare you friend-zone me?" You don't get it, Bella. Jacob's not like all those other guys. Jacob's a nice guy. The movie at least made him sympathetic and still almost likable, until he takes his anger out on friend number 3.
What is your problem? Right now, you're my problem. Feeling sick? Maybe you need to go to the hospital. You want me to put you in the hospital?
Jake, the movie's over. What are you doing?
Talk about a heel turn, where the hell did this come out of? I heard that Maya wrote in a character assassination on Jacob in the 3rd book to sway more people to Team Edward, but crap like this is completely out of left field. But before the scene ends, Jacob makes one solid promise to Bella.
Look, I know what he did to you. But Bella, I would never, ever do that. I won't ever hurt you. I promise.
So, what does he do in the next scene? Vanish without any explanation. You sure know how to pick 'em, Bella. So, for the 2nd time in less than an hour, Bella goes through separation anxiety again. Wow, what a compelling character. Desperate for answers, Bella goes to find Jacob at his house, only to find him with a new haircut, and I'm not gonna lie, the man is cut. I bet those abs could deflect bullets. After a little back and forth with Jacob, it looks like their friendship might be over.
This doesn't even matter, all right? This is over.
You can't break up with me.
You're right. He can't. Because you're not dating. Because you said he didn't want to.
No, of course you can. I just think it means something a little different to you.
So Jacob runs off to join the other shirtless guys, no doubt about to do regular things that men do without shirts in the woods.
No homo, right?
All of the homo!
In an attempt to hallucinate about Edward again as a pick-me-up. What the fuck is wrong with this book? Bella runs off to the field where she and Edward hung out in the first movie, and she runs into someone she wasn't expecting. Just not the person she wanted.
Bella.
Laurent.
I didn't expect to find you here.
And this part of the book sucked. It starts off very badly as Bella goes through every emotion that runs through her head as she sees Laurent. And this doesn't flow like some poetic prose detailing Bella's inner conflict. It reads like some clumsy info dump that's not even good enough to be filler. Laurent is here gathering info for Victoria, which caught Bella off guard. And the moment isn't helped by Bella seeing Edward again.
Victoria feels it's only fair to kill Edward's mate, given he killed hers. An eye for an eye.
This whole exchange can be summed up as Bella failing one bluff check after another.
Do the Cullens visit often?
Why?
Yeah, absolutely, all the time.
I better.
I'll give this scene credit though, it is much faster than in the book. The droning back and forth gets cut down to Laurent figuring out Bella's alone and the Cullens are gone, then decides to kill Bella, playing it off as doing her a favor since Victoria would want to torture her first. And I gotta admit, I do like Eddie Gathegi's acting here. He almost comes off as genuinely compassionate.
I mean, you helped us.
Shh. Don't be afraid.
I'm doing you a kindness.
Victoria plans on killing you slowly, painfully. Whereas I'll make it quick. I promise. You will feel nothing.
It looks like Laurent is about to eat Bella when she unfortunately gets saved.
I don't believe it.
Yes, an hour into the movie and the werewolves finally make their dramatic reveal. Actually, didn't it take Bella that long to figure out Edward was a vampire in the first movie? God, these movies are so paint by numbers. But then the werewolves chased Laurent off screen, where we're later told a fight scene occurred. Whew, that was close. We almost had something interesting happen. That night, Jacob comes to visit Bella and explains some of what's going on, without actually explaining any of it.
I wish I could explain, but I literally can't.
I could tell you of the great battle centuries ago. How the traveler was crippled. I could tell you of the power of the darkness.
The only thing Jacob can do is drop a hint since he sort of explained what's going on accidentally in the first movie.
I'm not really supposed to say anything about
Did you know Quileutes are supposedly descended from wolves?
Seeking answers, Bella drives to Jacob's house to confront him one last time. Now this does cut out a dozen or so phone calls to Jacob from the book, which was just another in the long list of things that the book dragged out ad nauseum. Bella pushes her way into Jacob's house, but he looks like a frat boy after a kegger. Though Bella apparently thought he looked beautiful in the book. Frustrated, Bella dashes out to confront the ever-imposing but largely absent Sam. And this brief shouting match turns into Bella bitch-slapping one of the werewolf boys.
Too late now.
Bella, get back! Oh, calm down now.
Bella runs for cover when Jacob sees her and runs to her rescue.
Run!
If this were in any other movie and presented by any other trailer, this might have been good.
Wow, you're a werewolf. Shocking. It's in the trailer, dude.
For real?
Yep.
Okay, werewolves in this storyline are not as much of a mess as vampires. Probably helps that they don't sparkle. So, like vampires, there are a few things that Meyer changed around from traditional werewolves. For starters, they don't need the moon out to transform. I'm pretty sure this scene here is set in the late morning. These werewolves also look just like giant wolves instead of humanoid wolves, but I can't find anything that really says this is incorrect. Personally, I prefer the Loup-Garou werewolves from the Dresden Files, but that's a personal preference. Because they are insanely scary. Twilight werewolves can also transform at will whenever they want. It's just a matter of controlling their animalistic side when they do. They're almost like the werewolves from Skyrim in that way, just without the interesting backstory. And honestly, none of those are bad things. Like vampires, werewolves had a lot of flexibility in how they're presented, and Meyer did take some ownership over them. So you want to see how she did mess up? Meyer tried to give us hints to what Jacob was early, although she handled it extremely incompetently. Bella thought to herself in one scene how weird it would be if Jacob and the wolf she saw in the field with Laurent were the same person, in one of the clumsiest attempts at foreshadowing that I've ever seen. The wolf's eyes were dark, nearly black. It gazed at me for a fraction of a second, the deep eyes seeming too intelligent for a wild animal. As it stared at me, I suddenly thought of Jacob, again, with gratitude. Moments like these are what made me think this book didn't have an editor. Especially since even fans of the series apparently aren't crazy about New Moon. And for all the furor of Team Edward versus Team Jacob, I thought Jacob was this big player in his pack, but he's actually the runt of the litter. Of the 5 werewolves we see in this movie, not only is he the last to change, but he's the smallest wolf. I don't know how this will change later in the series, but I was surprised to learn that Jacob wasn't some destined badass leading a group of shirtless men to victory or something. Speaking of them being shirtless, there is a reason why they're never fully dressed, which Meyer didn't outright detail in a total exposition dump. Holy crap, she can learn! Werewolves have a higher body temperature, probably related to their metabolism, but that part is speculation. Basically, they don't wear shirts because they're too hot. Personally, I think Meyer wrote this as part of some repressed sexual fantasy.
And then, the hard, shirtless men slathered me in exotic body butter. Oh.
And then there's the interesting factoid that while the werewolves can transform at will, they can't do it before the gene gets unlocked by being close to a vampire.
So you're a werewolf?
Yeah, last time I checked. A few lucky members of the tribe have the gene. The bloodsucker moves into town, and the fever sets in.
First off, how does that work? How are they genetically dependent on vampires to acquire their wolf forms? And why are they awakening their wolf forms now? Were the Cullens not enough? Do they need a particular type of vampire? If so, what is the type, and why was none of this thought through in the book? There might be a reason given later in the series, though I doubt it. I imagine this could all be reactionary to defend the world from vampires, but that's probably giving Meyer too much credit. Also, when they transform, they tear out of their clothes. Like, completely. Everything gets shredded. K.A. Applegate had a similar problem with her Animorph series, but fixed it by explaining that skin-tight clothes transformed with the kids. Unrealistic? Sure, but at least it's something. And in a series about kids morphing into animals thanks to alien technology, it could be much worse. Meyer doesn't give us such detail, so I can only assume the reason that the werewolves are never seen naked is because they keep spare pants scattered throughout the forest. And I must be right, because when Sam rescued Bella in the woods for the first time, we could hear a wolf breathing. So he must have transformed, found her by scent, then put his clothes on. The only other explanation for why he wasn't naked when he walked out carrying Bella is that he took his pants off and flung them over his shoulders, which has terrifying implications. There's a barely legal teen lost in the woods. Better take my pants off. And perhaps the best thing about the werewolves is how they transform. Bella slaps this guy, and he gets pissed off, which triggers a transformation. And as Jacob flat out explains in the book, anger triggers the transformation. That's fine as an explanation, except the angry transformation has been done before, and better.
I'm sorry.
The werewolves in this book are basically what you get if the Hulk was a furry.
Hulk what? Yeah!
And now you have that picture in your head. You're welcome. This is all just an exercise in futility. What, explaining why Twilight's garbage? Yeah, probably, but someone's gotta do it. Oh my god, what the hell?
So you've made up your minds?
I'm afraid your particular gifts are too valuable to destroy. But if you're unhappy with your lot, join us. We would be delighted to utilize your skills. Won't you consider staying with us?
You know it will happen anyway. Not without cause.
Such a waste.